Thank you. Thank you, Senator Schatz, for, there we go, for convening this important conversation. And to our witnesses, you are leading the way, and I thank you all for being here. In Illinois, we have several communities that have committed to transitioning to 100% clean energy. Chicago, our nation's third largest city, is committed to transitioning to 100% clean renewable energy for all buildings by 2035 and to 100% renewable electric bus fleet by 2040. Although there's not much good news to report in the area of climate change, to the extent that we can, it is that scores of leaders in local and state governments like you are taking action. Thank you for not waiting for the feds. Mayor Bottoms, in your testimony, you shared that low-income residents and residents of color are the most vulnerable to impacts from our changing climate, including flooding and extreme heat. To address this, you have prioritized reducing energy and transportation costs for these communities, as well as to sought out new pathways to economic opportunity in a new green economy. In the Senate here, I have co-founded the Environmental Justice Caucus, and it's certainly something that I'm looking very closely at. Can you please share with us what policies have been the most impactful for you in addressing these issues? And if there are any federal tools in particular that you've used that we can actually make stronger to help places like Atlanta and Chicago to achieve their climate action goals. So for example, are there like any plans or federal action that we could implement that would help you? And are there any tools that you're already using that are federal tools that we could perhaps make even stronger and more readily available?
Yes, and thank you. And I'll be happy to share a few that we are already making use of in Atlanta. The National Renewable Energy Lab, we are going to them for resources. Also, I mentioned earlier the assistance from Rockefeller Foundation and Bloomberg Philanthropies, particularly with the Rockefeller Foundation and helping to create our resilience framework, and also helping not just Atlanta, but cities across the country, putting in place a chief resilience officer. The Green Link Group also has assisted the city of Atlanta in creating our clean energy scenario tool. The Department of Energy's Clean Energy for Low-Income Communities Accelerator Toolkit has also been helpful. And also just even having the discussion around the upcoming census has been an opportunity for us to integrate this conversation and speaking, especially with our underserved and often undercounted communities, why a census count matters, because obviously it's helpful to us to get additional federal funding in our underserved communities.
Are there any particular federal grant programs or anything like that that you've used that you can think of? You mentioned the Department of Energy has their packet. Is there anything else like that that's not a not-for-profit, but is a federal program that we here on this side of the dais might be able to help with?
I think, again, going back to the clean energy assistance, and as we are having this conversation in our communities and helping communities, our underserved residents with their energy bills, and also to help convert some of our housing that we are working to create an affordable housing pipeline in the city of Atlanta. We have a goal of creating and preserving 20,000 units of affordable housing in the city of Atlanta by 2026. Assistance in that program as we undergo construction and redevelopment of those homes to help us make sure that they have sustainable and clean energy would be tremendously helpful.
Thank you. Mayor Pedotto, like the Sioux City, Southern Illinois has played a major part in powering our country, especially with our coal miners in the far south, and I fear that these communities will be left behind. Despite their contributions to our nation, if we don't give them specific prioritizations as we consider plans to affect climate change, this will truly happen. And you mentioned the need for a Marshall Plan for the Midwest. Could you describe broadly the policies you would like to see included in such a plan?
Absolutely. Being from Western Pennsylvania, growing up there my entire life, I saw my area die. I saw my city come back slowly, but the areas around Pittsburgh, just like in other areas in the Rust Belt, haven't come back. And when we have the conversation a couple of years ago, we basically told people who had given their lives of working to build America that they could become coders. It was tone deaf. These are people who have that opportunity and want to be a part of it. You want to turn a coal miner into an environmentalist, put a paycheck in his hand. Give them the opportunity to see where that would be. If we start to look at just one industry, Right now in the United States, we have 300 electric buses. China has 421,000. We're losing the industry. We should be making those buses here. They should be employing people from Detroit. They should be made and being exported around the world. And we should be using the technology out of the University of Michigan and others to be able to create batteries that can be able to hold a charge longer than anywhere else. There is an entire new economy being born, but we're not investing in it. So a specific plan would address those types of technologies that would help to reduce our carbon footprint while putting us on a competitive advantage against the rest of the world in providing tax breaks into those areas that have been left behind geographically to locate in those areas and employ those people.
Thank you.